Does growing up in survival mode or in a single parent household make it harder for a woman to tap into her feminine energy? We're going to dig deep and we're going to hear what actress Tasha Smith has to say about her experience reconnecting to her feminine. Stay tuned. Welcome to the secret formula of femininity for women who want to live a more feminine, fun, and fabulous life. I'm Dr. Nicole Montero, your host on this weekly journey to unlocking your inner radiance, nurturing fulfilling relationships, and becoming the best version of yourself. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode. I'm your host and guide on this journey to tapping into your feminine essence, Dr. Nicole. And I'm so excited to do something a little bit different today. We're going to listen to part of an interview with actress, very accomplished, very beautiful, amazing actress, Tasha Smith. And she was recently on the Tamron Hall show. Shout out to Tamron Hall. I love what she's doing with her dialogue, the way she's bringing topics that are important to women. As she said, she's talked about everything: menopause, ADHD, relationships. Well, her recent show talked about feminine energy. And I got to tell you the story on this. So many people know I've been doing this work for so long. I'm so passionate about the power of our femininity and feminine energy. And she called me up and she's like, "Oh my God, Nicole, did you see Tamron Hall?" Now, you know, I didn't see it because I don't watch daytime TV. But she's like, "You will love it. It was all about feminine energy." So I had been seeing some clips here and there, went and looked up the show, and I saw that they had a great discussion about it, weighing what people are saying, the misunderstandings that some people, including women, have, that it's, old fashioned. We don't need, men and women are the same, all that stuff. And we've talked about a lot of that on the podcast here. But the thing that really stood out to me was the first-hand accounts. And she talked directly to actress Tasha Smith. You've seen her in so many different movies. I love her. She has this vibrant, happy, just, attractive personality, and she's a beautiful woman. And she talked about a personal part. She wasn't there to talk about the next film project or anything. She talked about her journey with feminine energy. And she started off, I'll let you guys hear it. We'll play a little bit. But she talked about how her upbringing played a part and why it was hard to connect to her feminine energy. Let's take a listen.
This feminine energy
Yes.
thing. I read a quote from you. You said that you didn't have time to be feminine because you were always working. You've been so transparent about your life and your background. What does that mean? I didn't have time to be feminine.
You know, sis, it was almost like I felt like I was constantly in survival mode. Like I always had to take care of myself. I always had to lean on myself. I felt like I was doing all the masculine things, making the money, paying the bills, taking out the trash. I mean, really.
Right.
So whereas though even when I would date, I would be like, "Oh, let me get the trash," because I was so used to getting the trash, right? But I am learning how to fall back and allow myself to be taken care of.
Interesting. I think that's interesting because you were raised, like me, by a single mom. Your mom was a teenager.
Yes, she was 14. Monique Smith, what up, Mo?
Monique Smith. And you just talked about even professionally, you gravitated toward masculine projects. You said dramas, crime, and thrillers.
Yes.
What I'm curious about, you're raised by this woman who beat the odds. 2 amazing daughters.
Yeah,
You
three
said three daughters.
Shay Boots.
Shay. We got all these cousin names.
Right, we got all these names. Shay, Monique.
But the funny thing is that you somehow believe that masculine energy is what you needed to thrive.
Yes.
But now you've changed. I
Yes.
help me understand
because,
it.
sis, like I grew up in Camden, New Jersey,
Yeah.
right? Right, Jersey. Hi. And it's like when you grow up fighting, like I literally, sis, I used to walk around with lighter fluid, a hammer, and matches in my bag.
All right, that was a great clip. What did you all think? I mean, I absolutely love both of those women, but I loved Tasha's honesty. And she said 2 things that we say over and over, but just for her to say it like that. She grew up with a mom that was a young teenage mom. So there was a lot of being in survival mode. Her mom beat the odds. She and her sister beat the odds. And sometimes we feel like that's enough. We overcame the material hardships, the physical hardships, right? She talks about having to fight. She grew up in a rough area where she had to protect herself and she had to take on these masculine roles and energies of protection, of beating the odds, of making it through. And all of it's great, right, when we persevere. But I think what more and more women are starting to talk about now is what is the impact of those lasting battle scars, right? First of all, growing up where you had to protect yourself, it was rough. You were in survival mode, she said it. And secondly, in a single parent household, which contributed to her to the survival mode. And she saw the impact as she was older in her dating life and relationships. She was taking on roles that, let me take out the trash, let me do this, let me do that. And I've said many times that those are the remnants of your childhood wounds, your childhood survival mode. You did what you had to do, which was amazing as a child, but you have to shift into another place where you know that you're safe, you have permission to thrive. And she said the word, you have the permission to fall back. But it's not easy to just snap into that, right? So while she has been out of survival mode for years, she's been successful as an actress, teacher, director, throughout the industry, she and her sister. But that doesn't mean that she sheds automatically the identity of being in her masculine. And what she was going on to say was she perceived those masculine energies as the thing that was the thing. That energy was the thing that made it possible for her to be as successful as she is right now, right? If she didn't have the skills to survive, to protect herself, to get through, to persevere, then from her experience, she would not be where she is right now. And for a lot of women, that's what makes it hard to shed that identity because it feels like, wait, you're talking about all this femininity and feminine energy. You want me to get rid of the thing that made it possible for me to even think about thriving, right? So it's a real inner conflict that I have seen with so many women. And I can say, as a high achiever, I understand it. I wouldn't say I necessarily grew up in that kind of survival mode, but maybe high achievement is a form of survival, right? Like that you're super smart, super capable, so that becomes your armor. That becomes your way of moving through the world. And I've even done a lot of my own personal resets, even going through one right now, where it's like, okay, what are the parts of me that I continue to perform that I don't need anymore? That I've elevated and I've done this work. And this is for every woman. What parts am I still holding on to? What parts am I still performing because that's a part of the old identity? But if I do a self-assessment, it's like, okay, I don't really need those parts anymore. And for Tasha, what I'm hearing is like she had to learn that she didn't need those masculine energies anymore. No, as a grown woman, successful woman, woman at peace, she is no longer in Camden, New Jersey, walking through with lighter fluid and having to fight every day. She is no longer the person who has to live every day as if she's making it through the odds because she is the daughter of a teenage mother. She's not in that position anymore. So it's so important to shed it. And the most important part that just I loved about the conversation is that she saw the impact and how it played out in her relationships. And this was the wake up call for a lot of women, a lot of us successful women. It's like, wait a minute, why are our relationships, why are we feeling like we're not getting what we need? We're doing, we're showing up, we're stepping up, we got it all together, all of this stuff. But the relationship is either not feeling fulfilling or it's falling apart, or we're not even getting that far into the relationship, right? This is the story of so many women that I meet. And I would say the key is your feminine energy and the falling back. She just said it so easily. That's because once you tap into it, it becomes a natural instinct. You understand the importance of falling back. You understand how you can learn to surrender and submit and let go of having to control everything. One of the women in my inner circle coaching community sent me this funny video of someone who is like, it was someone who gets really distracted because they're trying to do all the things. So this person in the video was going to put something in the laundry. And then along the way, they saw something that needed to be picked up. Oh my gosh, I ran out of trash bags. I need to wipe up the floor. Nobody wiped up the water that dripped on the floor. And in the video, they called it distracting, but I call it really not being in the present moment. You're so focused on everything being perfect, everything being tidy. You don't want to deal with the messiness. You don't want to deal with things not being perfectly in order, because when things are perfect and in order, then we have a sense of control. And that goes back to those unhealed childhood parts or wounds. That goes back to the whatever part of us felt like we were in survival mode when we were younger. Again, it typically goes back to childhood, right? But it's us performing those parts that we felt we needed growing up. And so when I hear Tasha Smith talk, she is really talking about shedding the parts of her that no longer are necessary. She is safe now. She can attract, she's beautiful, she's amazing. If she falls into that feminine, that is going to be so attractive, so that the right person is going to step up and take on that protective role. And for a lot of women, it's mostly the emotional protection that is so important, right? But in order to get to the emotional protection, because you have to learn to speak men's language, you have to let them do the physical things. You have to let them do the surface things. We got into a great discussion in our inner circle about, what do you say when your partner calls and says, "What do you need?" And for a lot of women, it's hard because they take it as a practical question, like, "Well, I don't need anything." So I tell them no. And we're like, hold it, no, hold it, right? Part of him calling and asking you is, that is a role that he wants to step into, is to take care of your needs. So think of something, because the question is about you, but it's also about him, and him needing to step up and do something tangible and concrete and like real for you. And so the more that a man is able to do that, because you fall back, you let him take care of your needs, you're not trying to control everything. And when I say control, I'm not saying it in a judgmental way or in a negative way. It's more so for the women who are used to solving problems. There's a sense of competence and being in control that they get from making sure things go right, things go well. And a lot of times, because we think of it in such a practical way, when he calls and says, "What do you need?" we're like, "Well, actually, nothing. I'm good." Right. And that taps into how, really, when you start to tap into your feminine, you are able to take off the mask of, "I don't need anything." Answer the question as if it is something that he needs to do for you. He needs to fulfill a need. So find a need. We all have needs. We're just used to kind of pushing them down. So it could be something from the store, or it could be, "You know what? I need you to get back here real quick because I need you, because I want to lay up under you, or I need to talk to you, or I need to be next to you, or I need your help with this." But you always have a need, and you should always be able, or feel like you're able to express that need to your significant other. So that's the whole relationship dynamic of falling back, stepping into your needs, allowing yourself to be cared for, protected. Now, for women, what we need or what we crave is desire and adoration, but also emotional protection. And that's why you have women saying, "Well, I don't need this, this, and this, but I need you to protect my emotions." But in order to do that, you have to fall into that tender place. And for men, they are drawn to giving you all forms of protection. But first, they want to take care of what they see as the surface needs that you have. So that's the whole breakdown of, like, why, when he calls and says, "What do you need?" never say, "Oh, nothing." There is always a need. And answer the question as if you're almost fulfilling a need of his, because if you allow him to take care of your needs, you're helping him to feel needed, and then it becomes reciprocal. Then he wants to go deeper into connecting to your needs, right? So I just think that that was such an amazing exchange. I'm going to put the link to the full episode in the show notes, and we'll probably break down different segments of it in some of our future episodes of the podcast. But it's something to hear a woman from her first person experience talk about being in survival mode, growing up with a single mother, growing up beating the odds, being successful, but still seeing the areas where it's hard for her to shed those masculine energies and that masculine identity. So I want to know what you have to think. Tell me, has this been your experience? Have you seen this or observed this? And it's a delicate topic because a lot of times if you talk to people, especially about growing up in a single parent household, people get offended. And we're just talking about really looking within and looking at those experiences that gave us an identity that is no longer serving us for the life that we want now. Okay? So please let me know in the comments, what do you think? What has been your experience? Am I on target? Am I missing something? And don't forget, for women who really want to tap into their feminine energy, learn more about what it takes to be in a healthy, thriving relationship and have healthy boundaries, you can get my book, The Boundaries to Bliss Blueprint, for women who are finally ready to win at love. And of course, if you want to dig deeper and be with a community of women who are going to support you, who know what it's like to shed that masculine identity and step into the feminine and get live coaching with me, master classes, all the tools you need to be on this feminine journey, then you want to check out my inner circle coaching community, the Boundaries to Bliss Society. You'll see all the links to those in the show notes. So I cannot wait to hear your comments, see what you have to say, and I will see you in the next episode. I'm Dr. Nicole.